All right, so let's start with kind of a timeline. There's obviously been some issues with the water in Roberts. So when did you first hear about these issues with the water?
So our water issue started with an over-chlorination event around February 8th, I believe it was, that we became aware we had a issue. We found out that our chlorinator had malfunctioned and over-chlorinated our system.
So on your Facebook page, it looks like on February 8th, you guys posted that there were some concerns regarding the color of the water, stuff like that. But at that point, was it safe to drink?
I honestly can't answer that.
Okay.
The city immediately went to work fixing the over-chlorination problem. In the beginning, we thought the discoloring was from some of the high mineral content we have in our water.
Oh, okay.
And it's not uncommon for us to get people calling us with concerns of discoloration in the water. And so in the beginning, that's what we thought we had. Okay. And once we got more calls, we realized we had something else going on. Okay.
So then it looks like on the 8th that it was posted to the Facebook page that it was because the water wells were being switched. Is that also something that caused that?
We believe so. We're still investigating. We have 2 wells, and when we were doing maintenance on our main well, and so therefore you would turn on your backup well and do that in the winter when there's less volume.
Okay.
And so that's actually been that second well, or the reserve well, I guess, is been running for some months.
Okay.
So it does have a little more mineral content. And like I say, the first couple of calls we got were just about discoloration.
Right.
And if you're in Roberts and you look at some of the houses, you'll see where the sprinkler hits their house, there's a little rust color sometimes because of the high mineral content in our water.
Okay. All right, so there's just 2 wells. There's the one you normally use, and then there's a backup well.
Right.
Okay, awesome. So then the next day, the city posted to Facebook saying that DEQ had been contacted, but the water was still safe. Do you know at that point if the water was safe to drink on February 9th?
I don't believe we said it was safe. I think we said it was contacted and we were investigating, but if it said safe, we couldn't say that for sure because we didn't know that.
Later, a few hours after that original post on the 9th, the city posted again saying that DEQ had actually called you guys, not the other way around,
right.
And that you then had DEQ had concerns about the water quality. So then later, a do not drink order was posted.
Correct.
So what kind of made you guys need to post that do not drink order?
So DEQ came out because of calls from our residents and tested the water and found the high chlorine rate. And they did their test and then called me about 6 o'clock that night to let me know that we needed to do a do not drink order. And so we immediately put that on Facebook. We got the rest of the formal information from DEQ early the next morning.
Okay, that makes sense. So then it looks like the next day, February 10th, the do not drink order was canceled.
Correct.
Okay, so then the city comes out and says they had a malfunction with the chlorination system, that it was now within normal range.
Correct.
Okay. So then on the 11th, it looks like people were still experiencing water that was a little bit discolored.
Correct.
And so what did the city do about it at that point?
So the city was looking to see what the issue was. Like I said, we tested back in the norms on the chlorine. Again, the minerals. So we suggested people run their faucets and run water. The very beginning when we got a call or two, the city clerk went and checked the water in City Hall, and it wasn't discolored at that point.
Okay.
So we thought it was in the beginning, we thought it was a localized issue, maybe with an individual's pipes or an individual system. As the time went on, we realized there was an issue. The over-chlorination event, we believe, we don't know, they have broken loose sediment and things that settle in any water system's lines over time. So that's where we believe the discoloration was coming from.
Okay. Do you have this might be kind of an impossible question to answer, but do you have a number of people that called with concerns about the water?
Very few people called City Hall.
Okay.
And that was a concern. Well, that's part of our concern is very few people actually called us. We had 2 or 3 call. As things started happening more, we got more calls. But in the beginning, we weren't getting calls at City Hall. And so it was, once we knew we had the chlorine issue, there was an immediate rush to fix the chlorine issue.
Okay.
Like I say, DEQ contacted us because of residents' contacts, and so DEQ has been engaged in our resolution of our problems at this point.
Was it something you were hearing about more so on social media at that point?
Well, once we started to hear a few calls and looked on social media, well, yeah, people are posting it on social media.
Okay.
And social media has great value, but it's not a news outside of your channel. It's not technically a news source.
Yeah.
And even at that, it wasn't being reported to the city's Facebook page. It was a community page, and so we didn't necessarily see that right away.
So that was the 11th. So on the 14th, the city of Roberts was notified by DEQ that it had violated multiple rules about the water quality regulations, things like failure to receive approval before deactivating and reactivating the water source. So what kinds of things went into finding out that that's what occurred?
So as DEQ came, they were doing their inspections and found these violations. Some of these violations, the mayor doesn't run the water system. You have an operator that runs the water system. Our retired water system operator is still around and been helping us out. He was working on training our maintenance operator. He's not a licensed operator, so in the beginning he was working under our guy who was retired. We paid him a retainer to stay on as our license holder, and he was being trained. He was our retired operator wasn't aware that those were violations.
Okay.
And so therefore, when we went to do the work on the systems that we were doing, we were unaware, unfortunately, we were unaware that we should have contacted DEQ before we did them.
So is that kind of where some of the issue came in, is there was a retired operator and then there was an operator that was just coming in, so there was a little bit of a...
Well, the chlorination issue was just simply a mechanical malfunction. It was they don't happen very often, but they do happen. And like I say, the operator and the retired guy immediately, we got to fix the problem. So they went to fix the problem.
So at what point did somebody test the water after February 14th when DEQ issued these violations? Was it before that, or was it after, or was it both?
So the city tests for chlorine on a very regular basis, a daily basis.
Okay.
So if the test was done in the morning and the machine malfunctioned in the afternoon, which is what happened, then you find out the next day. You go test and find out you're high. DEQ came and did tests, and they've done a wide scope of tests since. Those include the E. coli tests and tests for lead, copper, different minerals and things from the well.
In the video you posted to Facebook, I believe it was on the 14th, you say that some of the past mayors and some of the experts were unaware of these things that DEQ requires us to do.
Yeah.
So in what capacity would you have been able to find out about these things? Like, what was the discrepancy there where there was a miscommunication between what you guys knew where you were supposed to report and what DEQ thought you guys knew you were supposed to report?
That's a good question. When all this came out, we started, first of all, chasing the problem, trying to find where our problem was, and then finding out some of these things were violations. The mayor that was in office when the system was built is on the city council with me now, and so I immediately went to him to ask him for advice on everything from anything he knew. Okay. And he was unaware of these requirements. Our retired operator said he had never heard of these things. And then we brought on a licensed operator as that one retired from Idaho Rural Water, and he took over as the well process had already begun of the repairing the wells. Okay. So there's probably a gap there. Your licensed operators are supposed to know the things and supposed to communicate them. There's been a lot of retirees from DEQ as well. And so the relationship that our retired operator had was with a different set of people. And so perhaps there was just an assumption on the part of multiple people that it was known.
Okay, that people understood things that there must have been some kind of lapse, is what you're saying.
There obviously had to be.
Okay.
And, I don't think there was no anybody meaning to do anything wrong or bad.
Okay. So I want to ask if you guys got any calls regarding people getting sick from the water.
We never did.
Okay.
We started to know that was happening because people called DEQ, and they called and asked us if anybody had reported getting sick. No one had called us.
Okay.
And I think that's what brought on the E. coli tests from DEQ. So we had just had an over-chlorination event which kills E. coli. So I don't think anybody was
really worried
thinking
about that
E.
at the
coli.
moment. Yeah.
And there's regular E. coli tests. All municipal systems have a regularly scheduled set of tests on a monthly basis, or more depending on the size of the system.
Okay.
And the City of Roberts system has been running for 20 plus years, running with all this testing on a regular basis. So not, we have a problem, but we've gone a long run with no problems.
Okay. So do you know if there were any official, diagnoses of people who got E. coli?
I only have hearsay or what I've seen on TV.
We got a few calls about people thinking they might, but I don't think anybody got tested that I know of. But okay. So then after the water was tested for E. coli and it came back positive, you guys had an emergency city council meeting about
Correct.
the water quality.
Correct.
How fast did that happen, and what happened at the city council meeting?
So after we got we had the boil order, I talked with Jefferson County Emergency Management. They help us with a lot of things, and Rebecca Squires is our emergency manager. She said, "Do you want to declare an emergency?" And I conferred with her, should I do that? And she gave me reasons why maybe I should consider it. I conferred with my council members to find out what they thought, and before I even declared an emergency. So by Idaho law, the mayor can declare an emergency that lasts for 7 days. And then if it goes beyond that, then the city council has to ratify it. So once I decided with advice from others to declare the emergency, then I thought it would be a very good idea to have an emergency meeting. And we had that relatively quickly, so we could discuss where we were and try to figure out where we were going at that point. But the main point of emergency declaration is the financial side. It makes it where the city is able to move quicker, is able to spend money from some reserves that may not have been budgeted for that system. So it kind of opens the checkbook a little bit, if you will. And if it became a major emergency, it could help us get funding from other sources. I don't know that we'll go there, but it's made it where I can authorize overtime, where I can do things that we don't normally do.
Okay, so the emergency declaration, what all does that consist of, other than just, like you said, opening the checkbook, being able to use money for that? Does it include anything else that directly impacts the residents of Roberts?
Outside of that, not really. There's no, the boil advisory, came from DEQ, and we communicated it. We've tested clear now for several days, and I was advised that we could lift it, but I was advised by our licensed operators, people with some experience, that we should probably keep it in place till we get our whole system repaired and set.
Okay, so on February 25th is when DEQ placed Roberts on a boil order. So that leaves February 8th to now March 8th, or March 7th. That's almost a month. So has there been a period of time between that when the water was safe to drink, do you know of?
So after the chlorination event, if your water was clear, we would have to assume it was. Again, I'm not the chemist or the scientist. Personally, I drank the water. I still do.
Okay.
But we do have a boil advisory in place. and anybody who's concerned about it should not drink it.
Okay. So there is I guess there's a plan in place for residents to get water right now too.
Right.
So can you kind of explain that? Because I know originally it was 1 case of water per family, but now it's 5 cases per vehicle. Is that correct?
So the first thing after we decided we needed to do we knew we had a boiler, declared the emergency, and then there was discussion whether we should provide bottled water. It's not required, but we thought it was a good idea. And so city councilman and myself drove our trucks to Costco and loaded up a couple pallets on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon,
Okay.
and did a distribution then. And so we could only carry enough.
So
We did a case just to get everybody started.
Okay.
Then we were looking to determine what we needed to do. And we worked through those cases. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints contacted us and asked us if we'd like a semi-load of bottled water. And we said, sure.
Of course we do.
And so about midweek, that semi-load arrived. And so we had enough water available to offer our residents 5 cases at a time, which is what we've been doing.
Okay.
And the donation from the church, of course, was an incredible and generous gift.
Right. So where right now can people go pick that up?
So what we're doing is distributions every other day. We're using volunteers to do the distributions. Our city staff consists of 2 full-time people, and as you can imagine, they're quite busy.
I bet.
So tomorrow, Wednesday, so I don't know when this will air, but Wednesday we're going to do one from noon to 2, and then Friday we'll do one from 5 to 7 or 5 to 6:30, I think. What we're doing is trying to do different times a day, so different people, depending on people's schedules, that they can get there. And then we've had volunteers deliver water to people who are either homebound or couldn't get out, or give us a call. People who've given us a call, we give that list to our volunteer coordinator, and they deliver some water to their homes. We really need as many people to do it on their own as possible because volunteers are limited.
Right.
But we've had some awesome volunteers.
That was my next question. I was going to ask about residents who aren't able to leave their homes. I know that we've had some pretty intense weather lately, and so that was my next question. But it sounds like it's being delivered, and if you need it to be delivered, you can call City Hall. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. If you're unable to make a distribution, you can call City Hall, and we'll do what we can to make some arrangements. And we've had residents that come and. So my neighbor can't make it, and they live at this address. Can I get theirs? Sure.
Okay.
So we're doing our best to get everybody covered. Unfortunately, we have to not give it to people who don't live in the city. We've had only a few people try, but the resources are limited, and we need to limit them to our residents, the people who are affected by our system.
Okay. So I guess my next question would be: is there a plan to ensure this doesn't happen again, that the water is going to stay clean as much as you can? I know that mechanical problems happen, obviously, but is there a plan going forward to make sure that the Roberts residents know that their water is safe to drink?
Sure. We're one of the things that, so before we had any incidents, we had it was a Mountain West Environmental Company had given us a proposal to take over our licensing and our testing, and we were going to review that this month.
Okay.
And decide if we wanted to go that direction. The company offers a lot of services and a lot of support that we honestly just didn't have. Like I say, we were going to review that and check out our costs and things. This obviously sped that up.
Right.
And because we had so many other things on the agenda before we had an incident, that's why it wasn't there yet. But this obviously took forefront. I reviewed the proposal. We held another emergency meeting where the city council extended the emergency. So the emergency is extended until it's no longer needed, so that we can move forward. And in that same meeting, I asked the city council to authorize me to negotiate a contract with Mountain West Environmental.
Okay.
Mountain West Environmental, I just signed their contract today. They actually already started working yesterday.
Wow, okay.
And they've got, like I say, they work on a lot of municipal systems, so there's a little more economy to scale, if you will. and they've got people to do more things than we would on our own. So that said, there's people who are licensed and will be there on a regular basis. They oversee repairs and operations, which is what what licensed operators have always done. The repairs to our main well may have precipitated some of these problems. We don't know. There's a lot of things we still don't really know. There's been a lot of testing going on to try to find out what happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again. The city had just barely put in an emergency alert system on our website, and we were slowly getting people signed up for that. And as soon as all our boil orders and our do not drink orders, we put out on that, and we've been asking everybody in the city to please subscribe. And even if you just live in the outlying area, sometimes those alerts are pertinent for them too. We only use our alert system for emergencies, so you don't have to worry about getting a daily event from us. And if they subscribe, they'll get an email from other news, but the alert that comes to your phone is only for emergencies.
Okay. So first of all, I guess, how do people subscribe to that? It's just on your website?
Right. If they just go to it's the cityofrobertsidaho.gov.
Okay.
There's a button there to subscribe, and it'll ask you, if your contact information, and then it's done.
Okay.
It's a pretty simple
Sounds
thing.
easy enough.
I even did it.
Okay. Well, then it must be super awesome, easy and awesome.
Yeah.
So when do you guys expect all the testing, the investigation, I guess, to be done?
It's an ongoing thing, and I wish I could tell you a date. We're very hopeful where we'll be, but I don't want to give a date that we might overrun.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to accidentally ingest something they shouldn't, and I don't want to give people false hope. The hope is, and the good is, that we are making progress. The lack of E. coli being positive in tests is great. The chlorination issue, we were required to report that to DEQ on a daily basis. We no longer are. We do keep record of it because we do record it every day, but we no longer have to report it to them. So we feel that that's a sign that we're moving forward. The well repair was supposed to be still another week or two off. That's been expedited. The company I'm not sure if they made it in today, but people repairing the well will be repairing the well this week. And there'll be a lot of sanitation, sterilizing issues, flushing the system, and then another series of tests before we can say everything is clear and lift the order.
Ready to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think the city council members or you or the city in general needs to, or do you feel like you need to make, or the city needs to make an apology to the residents for, having a little bit of miscommunication or feeling like they don't know if they can drink their water or not?
Sure. I have already stated that I was sorry on behalf of the city because obviously it's important to all of us. It is that fresh water is the first most important thing we do. Where that wastewater goes is the second most important thing we do. We're sorry this happened. And the other thing to remember is that every city council member and the mayor, we all live in the city too.
Right.
And it affects us honestly more than it does our residents. I'm not saying they should feel sorry for us, but while this has happened and we're working through it, city council members have been great to jump up and with the meetings are a necessary evil. I don't really like meetings, but they're what we got to do. And then the council members are sometimes the volunteers delivering water or helping out. The city clerk was overwhelmed with phone calls for a few days. So some city council members, some other people came in to answer the phone. We gave them some bullet points to answer questions, and then that she would pass on the phone if need be. But to try to take some pressure off the city clerk so she could continue to do her work because all the other things the city does are still moving forward too. So.
Okay. All right. That sounds great.